Hey everybody,
Hello.
we swapped sides just to blow your mind. Whoa! So, if this is bothering you, try and do just a mirror image and we'll look normal, I guess. So, we left off talking about Final Fantasy VI.
Yes.
So now it's time to address Final Fantasy VIII, clearly.
It is, yeah.
So Final
I
Fantasy...
think 7 is not memorable in any way. So
Nobody remembers 7.
No.
Alright, so Final Fantasy VII. I played it later than most because I was a Nintendo fanboy and I put off getting a PlayStation for a long time. I actually got 7, 8, and Tactics all at once. So
wow.
that I don't know at what point all 3 of those games were out, but that's when I got a PlayStation.
Okay.
I liked 7. It never hit me as the world's greatest game.
Me neither. I mean, yes, it's a very good game.
We're going to be banned from the internet for this.
It revolutionized.
It did a lot.
RPGs.
It did a lot that was different. It did a lot that was good. I liked 7. I prefer 4, 5, and 6.
So would those be your top 3?
Of the Final Fantasy series?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. And honestly, I think in that order.
Okay. Mine is more controversial, so we'll get to that.
So 7's good. It does a lot of
Right.
stuff different. I didn't like the fact that it's 3 party members instead of 4, which is traditional size, and the 5 that you get in 4.
Right.
I felt like 3 party members really limited. Like, you give me all these choices of characters, but I can only use 3. And I never liked that. I always felt constrained. I will be playing the big remake that's coming out.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you that story. I bought my PlayStation with my first or second paycheck from my first job when I was 16, and it was specifically so that I could play Final Fantasy VII. That was buying a PlayStation and buying Final Fantasy VII was the grand scheme of my first, $200 and something paycheck.
Did you feel like it
When I
was
was
worth
16.
it?
Oh, it was totally
As
worth
opposed
it.
to when you got 1?
It was totally worth it. And I remember my mom coming home from work. She got late from work. So I was home from school. I had already hooked it all up. And I was sitting in my bedroom and I was playing it. I don't know why I remember this. And she just came in and she saw me sitting there playing it. And she kind of looked at the thing and the controller. And you could kind of see it in her eyes. Because she didn't have anything to do with video games. And she was like, "Is that something new?" I was like, "Yes, mother, I got paid today."
And
She
I
was like,
spent it all.
"Okay, maybe we need to talk about money a little bit."
But Mom, it's Final Fantasy VII.
Right, it was Final Fantasy VII.
So I like 7. Oh, I have one more Final Fantasy VII story. So a friend of mine, Erin Clancy, in high school, she asked for my help one day because she was playing Final Fantasy, and I was past Final Fantasy VII at this point. Like, it was in my rear view mirror, but she was playing it for the first time, I guess, and she was having trouble. She couldn't beat the wall boss that moves at you.
Mm-hmm.
So she asked me to come over and help her with it, and I went over to her house, and I saw that while she had been buying all of the new weapons and equipment and everything at every town she ever went to, she'd never equipped any of it.
Oh,
So all of
that's
her characters were still using their starting equipment from the very beginning of the game, and that's why she couldn't beat this boss. And I was kind of impressed she had gotten that far.
right? Yeah.
She must have thought it was a really hard game.
Right.
So that's my other.
Yeah, I get that.
She had a you can pick that up moment.
Yeah, I think we've all had those. I've just maybe had more than others.
You were definitely more prominent.
So 7, great game. For me, it's not in the top 3.
I don't think it deserves the legendary status that it seems to have acquired.
I think it revolutionized RPGs in a way that kind of like Dragon Quest did by just kind of creating that genre.
Yeah, but it took fantasy games, it took JRPGs away from fantasy.
See, and Sam, okay with that.
6 was a blend of fantasy and steampunk.
Yeah,
like,
6 was kind of steampunk.
yeah, but magic was still a very strong force. The story itself was literally, magic has faded away, but is it gone? Oh, now it's back. Magic versus technology. 7 was technology. 8 was technology. 10 was technology. 11 was an MMO. But anyway, I like the fantasy genre, and with 7, we said goodbye to it.
And I like steampunk, post-apocalypse better, I think.
I like those too, but I like having an option, and everything went that way.
Yeah.
Except Dragon Quest. Everything else went.
Right, Dragon Quest has stayed the same. So 7.
We're at 8.
We're at 8.
Okay.
We are at 8. So you just go ahead and talk about 8.
Yuck. No. So I'm glad that we can agree on this. 8 was just a mess.
No, I'm not agreeing. I'm saying
Damn it!
I'm saying that your opinion is totally wrong, and that people don't understand 8.
Princess is with you. Princess thinks 8 is a great game.
8 is my second favorite of all the Final Fantasies. 8. I loved all this. I love the junctioning, and the fact that you don't have to grind because you actually don't really want to gain that much experience. You want to level up your guardian forces, which are the system through which you learn all your abilities, but you don't really want to level up your characters too much because your enemies level up with you. I liked the characters. I liked that they were Squall, the main hero, was a little insufferable, but the other characters were all really great.
I'll tell you, when I quit 8, I was done. I told myself, the next time Squall pisses me off, I'm done with this game and I'm never coming back.
So what moment was that?
2 minutes later, we had just gotten the spaceship. So I don't even know how far along in the game it is.
You got quite far then. Mm-hmm.
We had gotten the spaceship. Renoa had said something to him, and he just ... dotted, and I went, screw it! I'm done. I'm out. I cannot be with this main character anymore.
That was one of my favorite parts of the game.
I can't play a game where I seriously dislike the main character. Because the main character is supposed to be my avatar in the game.
But if you finish the game, you followed him through maturity. He matured
from a little jerk to a big jerk.
He matured from a jerk to a
jerk.
Normal human being. He smiled at the end.
Oh my god!
He smiled at the end.
Smiled at everybody.
Sorry, it was profound. It was profound.
The character finally gave exactly one smile. He is healed.
Renoa pulled out of him.
And then he never smiled again because he had reached the pinnacle of his evolution. It was all downhill from there.
I love 8. I
liked the cutscenes in 8. I liked them a lot. They were very cool.
I liked the like you were talking about. You like fantasy. I like things that are a little more based in reality or the future. So I liked the setting of 8 was not even so much futuristic as it was just kind of really close to present day. Somewhat futuristic, but really just kind of close to current time.
For me, 8 just cemented the direction the Final Fantasy series was going, which was away from my interest.
And I liked the music. I know we both talk about how we're not that into music in games, but 8 has, to me, a really memorable soundtrack.
I'm pretty good with Final Fantasy music. I can usually remember what game a soundtrack came from in the Final Fantasy series. All right, so you're an 8 lover, and I'm a sane person. So let's go on to 9.
9, my personal favorite.
I think the main character had a tail.
He did have a tail. Yes, he did have a tail.
I've completely forgotten most of 9. If I recall, you gained abilities by using equipment that had abilities on it.
Yes.
I kind of liked that system.
And then you could permanently use them once you had gotten enough ability points to extract them from the equipment.
Oh, we left that part out of 5. altogether. In the job system in 5, the jobs learn different abilities, and then what you could do is you could pick a set of skills to apply to your character as like a permanent set of skills. So like you had a guy be a white mage for a long time, and then you turned him into a hunter, right? But you could still give him the ability to use all that white magic that he had learned. So it gave you a lot of diversity in the job class system. 9 kind of did that in letting you pick permanent abilities from equipment.
That the characters were all specific classes.
Yes.
So,
but it gave you some customization of the characters that way.
I liked the art style. I liked the setting. It was very abstract. The characters were all kind of chibi, and there were like anthropomorphic people. There were like mouse people.
I'm still not entirely sure what gender Kuja is.
Yeah, I think that was on purpose.
Yeah, I think that's when Final Fantasy started going asexual with everything.
Male. He was male, but
was he?
He was.
Are we sure?
We are sure. Yes.
I do remember there's one funny moment in 9, because the Princess Garnet joins your party, but she joins under a pseudonym. So you drop a dagger on the ground, and she picks it up and she says, "What is this called?" "Oh, it's a dagger." "Dagger, huh? Tell you what, why don't you call me?" And then the name screen pops up. And the default is Dagger. You call her Dagger. And she said, "Why don't you call me Dagger?" But if you name her anything else, that conversation is, "What is this called?" "That's a dagger." "Oh, then you should call me Martha."
So what did you name her?
I almost always stick with the default names.
Yeah, I just named her Dagger because it made sense.
And then they had that little girl summoner who had crotchless pants.
Echo.
She had crotchless pants. It was a little girl with crotchless pants. Google image search. Go.
But she was so useful.
Not with kids around.
She was your best white mage.
She had no crotch in her pants.
I'm scared that you even noticed that.
How could she had big fluffy parachute pants with a hole where the crotch should have been.
To tinkle. Okay. So anyway, he's looking at her pants, and I would just like to emphasize it's my most favorite Final Fantasy. It's really the last Final Fantasy that was fantasy. It went back to fantasy after 6, 7, and 8, deviating from that more and more.
And they made a big point of that too, like in the advertising and everything. It was,
And I think nobody remembers it. Nobody remembers it. It came out less than a year after 8, and I'm sure that has something to do with it. I'm sure it has something to do with the fact that most people feel the opposite of me, that 8 was not sensational.
See, I went out and bought it new at the store, 9, because I was still, I'll buy every Final Fantasy that comes out. So I bought it when it came out. And I enjoyed it. I just didn't form any kind of attachment to it.
I enjoyed it. I feel like it was a perfected 4. It was like an enhanced 4.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Enhanced 4.
Then 10.
Let's just skip 10. 10 for me.
10 is really where the wheels went off.
Is when they really went off the rails.
There is no overworld map in 10. No. There is none. At the very end, you get an airship, and you can return to previous places by coordinates.
Yeah, you can put in coordinates.
There's no overworld. It was the beginning of the 13 run down a corridor.
It was. And I'm surprised I didn't hear more about that back then, that more people didn't pick up on that in 10 like they picked up on it in 13.
It really bugged me when I played it. Like, at the very end of the game, and I'm talking right before the end boss, you get an airship, and now you have the freedom to go anywhere you want to in the world, except you don't get to see you traveling across the world. The next place you're supposed to go is the end boss, but just in case you were bored, you can go back to anywhere you've been. Like, dude, why do I finally get freedom at the end of the game?
Yeah.
10,
and it
and 10-2, even less so.
Oh,
I could never master the combat system of 10-2. It was just...
now that again we're opposite. I loved 10-2. I think 10-2 took the job system, and 10-2 took the job system and turned it into teenage girls playing dress up.
I could have liked 10-2 more if I ever could have gotten a hold of the combat system, but everything was moving all the time. I never had time to think or strategize. I could never get the hang of it.
Yeah, 10 Kin 2 also took the really kind of emo story of Tidus in 10 and made it this fun girl adventure, because your only 3 playable characters are 2 of the girls from 10 and then a new girl. So they're kind of like Charlie's Angels or something. I loved the combat system because it's a job system again.
11 was an MMO. I played it for like an hour once. Daniel bought it, and then I played it. And then Daniel found out, oh, he's only allowed 1 character, so my character had to be deleted so he could play it, which is fair because it was his copy.
Right.
So that's it. That's as far as I played 11, was for about an hour.
I didn't even play it that far. I don't get into MMOs.
12, I barely got into it all. I played maybe 10 hours of it, and I just didn't feel compelled to play anymore. The active battle system, it didn't even feel like a Final Fantasy anymore.
No. Well, 12 was kind of like an offline MMO.
Yeah.
In terms of a battle system.
There's no fantasy anymore. They've given that up. They've given up the combat system because they had to keep tweaking and changing and changing and changing.
It was 12 to me, in terms of a setting, is closer to a Western, something like Dragon Age, than it is anything that Final Fantasy had done before.
I guess. I say 9 and I didn't engage. 12 and I didn't even care to be in the same room as each other. There was nothing.
Here's an interesting fact about 12. Do you remember any of the characters, Bosch?
A little bit.
Okay, so Bosch is, if anyone doesn't know, Bosch is like this 35-year-old man, and he's a knight, and he's framed for murder, and he's like a prisoner. And for the longest time, he was supposed to be the main character of 12. And they tested the game, they like focus grouped the game in Japan, and they were like, we're not going to play a game that's not about a 16-year-old boy with a heart of gold. So they made up Vaughn, who is a shirtless 16-year-old boy with a heart of gold that has a boy band haircut. And they made him the main character, even though he doesn't really do anything in the story. And it's really Bosch and the princess and the other characters that are leading the story. And that's why I feel like it has a more mature setting and storyline than other Final Fantasy games. And they just put in this teen boy to get Japanese people to actually buy it.
Now I find it even less appealing.
Oh, well, I'm glad I shared that with you. Yeah.
And they're coming out with a new remake of 12, and I'm just... No.
And I'm gonna buy it. It uses, since you don't really know anything about it, it uses a license board system, which I already liked anyway. You basically buy squares on this board, and that allows you to equip different equipment and to use different abilities. And then the remake uses the international version license board, where it's a job system. So there are 13 different boards, and you can like make this character a white mage, and this character a black mage, and this character a ninja. So I like that system too. I like it.
Fair enough. I'm not going to judge you on it because, like I said, I haven't spent much time with 12. I don't know if it's any good or not. The 12 is where the Final Fantasy series really stopped gripping me in terms. And we're going to have to cut this one short too.
Oh, okay.
But then we can get into 13 and maybe a couple spin-offs.
Okay.
And 15, maybe a little 14. So we'll see you in a bit.
See you later.
Hi, I'm Luke Bryan, 2-time CMA Entertainer of the Year. If I ever learn how to read, I'm going to read The Great Platypus Caper by Jeff Hillary because I believe in supporting fine literature. I'm Luke Bryan. Hi.